All right. Just a word of notice to everybody is that I did check to the recording got delayed for some reason, but it's now up on the shared link. So I actually will repost the link after we're done today, just to make sure. So you should have the recording, which was a series of mainly exams that we went over last time, which seemed to go over pretty well. So today we're pretty much going to repeat the same thing that we did in the Monday session, which is that we're going to peel back a lot of the practice exams and just continue to kind of like practice, challenge, and test. But as always, just a reminder, let's see, this is the week ending, today's the 28th, so that would be the 30th, carry the 1. So we are actually in this week just still working on exam practice. Now, ideally, just to say this, if you actually want to take your exam next week or the week after, hopefully you've already scheduled it. If you haven't, you want to schedule it as soon as possible. So let me just talk about this for a few minutes before we roll into exam practice. So if you just type in AWS certifications into Google, any search bar for the most part, and you go to amazon.com/certifications, if you scroll down, although you can just click on schedule an exam, just to say this, you could do that as well. If you scroll down, obviously you can just click on Cloud Practitioner and then schedule an exam. You can go either which way you want to if you can't find it. Now, when you click on sign in, which is that button that's going to take you, it's going to get, you can use the same sign in that you used for AWS.training, like if you were using that. But basically, this is an Amazon account. Do not use the one on the right because we're training partners, but we're not APN partners, just so we're clear. So we're not consulting partners. So even we don't use the partner side, that right side of things. So you're going to use the left side. And just to show you mine, like I have a separate login for my personal one, which is called IT Amazonian, that I use just to maintain it, right? So when you log in via this method, this is your official transcript. So everything you have in AWS is going to be tied to this email address. So just be mindful of that. So this is an Amazon login. Once you sign in, it's then basically going to go into a bunch of weird modes where it's like, hi, do you want to go to your account? It's like, yes, that's why I logged in to begin with, is I would love to go to my account. So then you log into your account, excuse the sarcasm. And so it's actually going to take you to Cert Metrics, which is a subsite that Amazon uses to host all of their stuff. Now, once you're here, you just click on schedule new exam. And then you scroll down. And what you can do is then you can just do Certified Cloud Practitioner. Now, you want to sign up with Pearson VUE, not with PSI. They've both been here for a while, but Pearson VUE is actually the core active provider. PSI is still like active, but they're being phased out. Note that you can actually take it in a testing center, which is valid for reasons that I'm about to explain, or you could take it at your house, which is very convenient, but comes with some caveats. So once you're here, you can say, look, I want to do it at my house, but I want you to note that if I click on a testing center, it talks about what to expect. If I click on OnView at your house, it gives you a whole different set of criteria. Let me summarize this criteria for you for just a minute, because I would prefer that you take it at home because it's just easier, quicker, faster, especially for a non-3-hour exam. But here's some qualifiers. When you sign up for this, and if you've already have this is also still very useful information, but you need to have a surface like a desk or a dining room table where you can take pictures of all 4 sides of your desk or table. Because if you take it at home, they're going to ask you to take pictures of all 4 sides, and they're going to ask you to take a picture of the underside. If you can't get to the back side, they're going to have a problem with that. The other thing is that your desk has to be completely clear. You can't have any jewelry, right? Although they're not going to ding you for rings, but if you have anything thick on your wrist, or definitely a watch, it's out. And the other thing to note is that no one can walk into the room. And if there's a pet, they have to be secured, right? So you need to go ahead and tell your family, like, hey, I'm taking an exam for 90 minutes. Don't talk to me. If someone walks into the room, which I actually had happen, if you get a warning, right? Especially if that person hasn't said anything. Now, I know that sounds weird. How would they know someone's walked into the room? They use your microphone to acoustically fingerprint the room. So they know when someone walks in, they know, and if a dog starts running around, they're going to say something to you. So you need to be able to take pictures of your stuff. And then at a certain point in time, they'll ask you to put away your phones and all other electronics, but you need to be able to take pictures of all 4 sides. You can't use a second monitor. And it is highly recommended. Like I pull mine out into my dining room. I usually just run a long Ethernet cable over to my laptop. And that's the only thing on my desk is my laptop. Family knows not to interrupt me. Any dogs, pets, or whatever else is around, they're all put away. So just be aware that if you take this at home, you want to be pretty clear because they're doing their best to do this remotely, but it's really hard for them. And they have to be a little above board in order to make sure the integrity of the test is protected. Other things to note. You don't want to do this because they're going to tell you to stop doing it, right? And they're going to give you 2 warnings and then you're going to fail, right? And the other things to note is that you don't want to talk to yourself because if you do that, they're going to tell you to stop, right? So I'm just telling you ahead of time. They're not mean about it. They're just like, oh, so a company wants you to start 5 EC2 instances, and they're like, excuse me, Mr. Forrester, can you please stop talking to yourself? That's what they're going to do. Okay. And like I said, they're kind about it, and they'll give you like 1 or 2 warnings, and then they're going to fail you, just so you know, and you won't get your money back either. So, so just be mindful if you take the test online that you want to set yourself up for success and make sure you're isolated, make sure everybody knows to leave you alone, give it a clean environment, just keep your desk clean. When I first took it, I thought, oh, I'll just take it on my desk, but I've got second monitor, 5 cameras, a bunch of unicorns and, all this stuff. And they were like, oh, that's got to go. I got external hard drives, so just go take it somewhere else. Now, if you can't get isolated space, then I would recommend you go to a testing center, just to say this, right? Now, and they're pretty stringent about the disinfectant protocols, at least the ones local here to Atlanta. So they're really good about making sure everything's clean. You will have to keep your mask on. So just be aware, but they're less worried about that when you're in an isolated testing center. They don't need to see your face. There's nobody to talk to. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. Any questions about that, any of that process, or how to get to your exam? Any of those pieces?
Can we have a bottle of water?
I don't know, actually. I've never brought any liquids with me, so I don't know, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it might be in the setup. I'm sure they'll allow it.
I've done some other proctored exams and you weren't allowed to have anything online. And like no water, no drinks. You can't, if you stand up or if you leave their view, you fail, all that.
Yeah, they're pretty tight about it. So especially with this level of exam, they just expect you to just tough it out. So the answer is I don't know, but I'm going to assume they probably don't actually. Notice, by the way, I had to say yes, yes, yes to a bunch of stuff, including facial recognition and other pieces. And then you get to choose your language, right? And then, wow, I might just be signing up right now. And then what will happen is they're going to tell you the price and the agreement to all the stuff. And then one thing to note is that they are going to ask like your preferred language and pieces like that. But one of the things they're going to ask is they're going to say, hey, what day do you want to do it, right? And just so they usually run these like 24/7, so it's actually really weird the times that you can take this. But if I choose the 31st, for example, as a Saturday, I typically take mine on Saturday mornings. Just as a strategy, please take the test when you feel like you're at your peak without coffee. Okay, so like if you have to drink coffee in the morning in order to be like awake, that's probably honestly not the best time to take the test. Just to say this. But if you're like, hey, by 10 o'clock, I am naturally awake and I'm ready to go, regardless of whether I've had coffee or not, that's a good time to take the test. So typically for most people, it ends up either being 7 a.m. if they're a morning person, 10 a.m. if they are like kind of quasi morning, and then sometimes 1 p.m. Most people don't want to take their stuff at night. Not only does that impinge on socially, but most of the students we talk to are either 7 a.m.ers, 10 a.m.ers, or 1 p.m.ers in terms of when they take the test, but whatever. Pick whatever works for you. Now, notice they are going to ask you whether you want it in military time or whatnot. Pick whatever makes sense to you. But I want you to note that you could actually take it at 12:30 a.m. in the morning if you really want to. I don't recommend that, but if you're at your peak, then high five, move on. So note that you can actually take it pretty late in the evening. If you really are truly a night owl, then go for it. You'll do great. And then you just choose your time. Let's say it's 4:45 on Saturday, which would be pretty late for me. And then they're just going to go through the whole thing, proceed to check out, execute, blah, 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 right? So it's pretty straightforward from this point. I think when you proceed to checkout, that's when you put in your voucher. So And you can sign up for multiple exams, which only a madman would do. But, I encourage you, if you feel that crazy, to go for it. I have actually done that before, just because I had to take multiple exams in like the same day, but they were all auditing, so I didn't really care if I passed or failed. I've never taken a serious exam more than one in a day. So, okay.
Voucher?
Yeah, so you can enter voucher promotions code on the payment screen.
What voucher?
Oh, sorry. If you have a voucher. Right, do you guys have vouchers?
Are
I
you
was
gonna give
wondering
us
about
one?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. If you don't have vouchers, just know that if you had one, you could use it. So,
Are you gonna give us one or not?
I don't think that I don't think that vouchers are part of this program. Where's Victoria? She'd be the one to answer that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
Jana, I don't think that was part of this program, was it?
You sure? Okay.
I'll have to go back and look at the, I don't know, I'd have to ask Victoria and look at the
Yeah.
Fine print.
paperwork.
I'll
So-
ask her and find out if that's the case, but I don't think you got vouchers. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, if not otherwise, I assume we get reimbursed from NGL if we pay for it. I'm sure. I mean, we don't pay for it, but
Yeah,
I can't comment on that, obviously.
Yeah, Tom, you're correct. Yeah, so I mean, if we don't have vouchers through this program, then yes. You'll either get reimbursed or I can put it on my card when I go to take the test.
Okay, cool. Sorry for the confusion there. I will find out though and make sure everyone's affirmed. Okay, and so that's it. You sign up, you get it. And by the way, you get a bunch of confirmation emails. And when they send you the confirmation email, it'll say, hey, click here if you want to change, reschedule, or cancel. Just know you can change it twice. The third time, they're going to ask you to cancel it. But you're going to get all your money back, so you can just reschedule again. I don't even know why they don't allow you to change it the third time. Maybe they just want to make sure you're serious. But know that you can't actually change it. Typically, it requires 24 hours notice. So if you're at a 4 o'clock on a Saturday, you got to change it by 4 o'clock on a Friday for it to count. Otherwise, they won't even give you the option to change. So just know. They will also send you emails telling you how to prepare in terms of like your space. And they will send a reminder usually about 2 or 3 days before and says, hey, you've got an exam coming up. Please pay attention. So, okay. Any
Don't
other
they
questions?
Don't they also make you download something on your computer? So, which means we can't use our NGL computers. You have to use a personal one, or if you don't have a personal one, I know that a few people have some. We have some spare ones that people can use. So
So just
on
yep,
that,
go ahead, Linda.
Yeah.
You know more about it than
I
I
was
do.
just gonna say that please don't take this on your personal computer. We want to make sure that everyone's taking it on their NGL computer because it is an NGL. We're asking you to do this for NGL. And I know that Ben was working with you, Michael, on making sure we had some things unblocked and different things. So I'll let you talk about that a little bit. But my understanding is that we want everybody to be taking it on their NGL device, and we want to make sure that we're able to support that. So
Yeah. So
Okay.
Nick, that was actually true. And then we worked with support with Pearson to make sure that the software actually worked on the NGL computer. So it got unblocked. So I haven't seen the latest status, but the last I heard it was good.
Cool.
So yeah. So everything should be working well there. So you can use your NGL computer. And apparently it sounds like we want to make sure that that happens. So they will send you an email, by the way, on how, running the test suite. Highly recommended that you download the software, run the test suite, make sure everything's kosher. Not the day of, preferably the minute you get the email, just to make sure everything's good. Because you know how these things go. We could think it's fixed, and some other security control could go into place, and then maybe it's not. So you might be saving a bunch of other people time and heartache as well. So, and it wouldn't necessarily be NGL's fault. They could change the signature of the binary, and that could cause problems. So just know that when you get that email saying, hey, do this to run a system test, you should do that as soon as possible. Good point. Thank you for reminding me about that. Okay. Other questions, comments, contributions? All right. Good. Well, then let's talk about some questions like we did last time. I'm going to choose a different review mode set this time. We're going to go for 5. Let's see. I don't think I have chat up when we find out. Let's see. Someone asked me, they said, where are the Amazon testing centers in Wisconsin? So let's see. In Pearson View, if we go back, actually, to the very beginning, there's actually a section that says find your testing center, and it'll actually like connect you in. But if you go search for there should be a way to search, but obviously if you're taking it home, it's not that big of a deal. But there is a locate a test center, right? And so it probably would be better to actually go through the certification site in terms of like scheduling an exam. So let me start over here, because that would be better, because it'd be better context and instead of trying to find out where all the stuff is. Oh, you're not going to work. Hold on a second. There we go. Let's say I want to schedule an exam. We're like, hey, let's go down here and do Cloud Practitioner. Let's schedule with Pearson View. Let's say I want to take it at a test center, right? First thing it's going to do is it's going to walk you through all the like terms and conditions. You're going to like agree to all that. And then what will happen is it's going to ask you for your language, and then it should, there's like maybe one more question, but it confirms price. That's right. Okay, and then it says, hey, where are you at exactly? Right, so in this case, I can just search. Then what will happen is once you submit your address or zip code or whatever, it'll actually tell you like who's actually close to you. And there's a little map, of course, of Atlanta. Oddly enough, I live in Decatur, which is on the east side of Atlanta, about 7.5 miles from downtown. And so this testing center at Georgia Piedmont Technical College, oddly enough, which I've been to several times, because Microsoft and Oracle actually teach there, and I've been trying to like figure out how to get other companies in there other than Microsoft and Oracle, but they're a great testing center. So you'll get a map like this, so you get to choose close to your location. So let's take a look at Madison. Oh, and actually I just saw somebody requested that. So I don't know Madison that well, but I'm sure this makes sense to those of you who live there. You probably are like, yeah, that's exactly right. So, and it looks like there's one at closer to Fort Atkins, but it looks like it's all limited for the most part to Madison proper. Okay. So Madison College South, New Horizons of Wisconsin, looks like Madison College is complicit with their various campuses and hosting the testing centers. So that reminds me remarkably of how Georgia State does it. They have campuses all over the city. And so, yeah. Cool. Does that help? Oh, I say, Mike, good. Let's see. Good. All right. So just to confirm, Jana did say there are exam vouchers. So I'll work with Victoria to make sure the vouchers are all in your hands. So we'll make sure that you have the vouchers so you can schedule as soon as possible. I'll literally send her a message as soon as we get done here. So in addition to posting, just make sure you have it fresh at the top of your mind, the video links for the videos. I'll make sure that Victoria is aware so we can get the exam vouchers out to you as soon as possible. Thank you, Janet, for looking that up. Good. Okay. Good here. Good with the process. Just need the voucher to schedule it, but otherwise, as soon as possible, schedule your exam at a date that you feel comfortable. Now, to be clear, obviously, if we look at the schedule, you know, we're going till August 6th, which is literally a week from Friday. But, you know, just to say this is that we're not going to abandon you, right? We would prefer that you do it by the 6th, right? But, you know, if you need to fudge it by a week or so, that's fine. If you want to go beyond that, you need to, you know, just to say this, I don't know this for certain, you probably need to have a conversation with somebody, right? As far as like your manager or whoever else is committed for the program. But, you know, just to say this is that probably within a week plus or minus of the 6th, it's like that's the end date. Now, that being said, you have access to us practically indefinitely. If you post something in Basecamp, I get an email, I will respond to you. Now, if I get 50 emails, it might take me a minute to get back to you because I am frequently teaching classes during the day, but that hadn't happened thus far. You've been a very conservative bunch in terms of sending Basecamp messages. So just good. So reinforce this. As soon as you get the voucher, sign up. Okay. All right, so let's talk about review set. Let's talk about review mode set 5. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to run through the questions. I'm not going to do nearly as much analysis as I did before, so we're going to kick some rust off. And so here we are. So what I ask you to do is actually just post your best, most informed, educated knowing or guess into chat. Give me either 1, 2, 3, or 4. Okay. I have to say this is an interesting question. I don't think I've ever seen this question before. Just to say this, which of the following cost management capabilities does AWS immediately provide you even before you create your AWS account? That's a fascinating statement, actually. And so just to say this is that even without an account, I was like, what billing resources do you have access to before I even looked at the answers? And does anyone know, by the way, where the tools are that exist outside of AWS for any of these 4 items? Does anyone know where those things live? Like, for example, let's say one is right. It's allow you to estimate your monthly spending in AWS. Right? So just so you know, there is actually an AWS monthly calculator. So there's actually a pricing there. Well, there's 2 actually. There's the simple monthly calculator and then there's calculator.aws. So the simple monthly calculator is the most popular. It also has been in deprecation mode for about a year, but the problem is that everyone loves it. So Amazon's having trouble getting rid of it because everyone's like, please don't. And so what this does is this allows you, for example, to add EC2 instances or, Route 53 or S3, and everything's on the left-hand side. And so you can actually add CloudWatch, SNS, etc. But here's the cool thing about this tool is that, like, let's say you're using SNS, which is a simple notification service. What this does is it actually teaches you what you don't know about the dimensions of pricing for the service in question. Right? Which, honestly, most of us just don't have this cold memorized. So you can actually look here and find out actually what you need to know about your application and how it uses SNS in order for it to be, costed. This doesn't require an account at all. The other one, AWS.calculator, also doesn't require an account. It allows you to create estimates based on services. So literally you could type in EC2 and just configure an EC2 thing. And this allows you, by the way, to take an entire architecture, build it into an estimate or a quote, save the estimate or quote, and then share it. The simple monthly calculator you can share, but it's kind of like, it won't keep like history or anything like that. So just know that you can actually create multiple estimates in calculator.aws, which are these 2 links. So those are 2 estimation tools. So based on that, and it looks like you all guessed one anyway, I would probably say sounds like 1 would be the right
Let's
answer.
see. Oh, wow. Finally got one right.
Yeah. So, and then the other things by the way, you can't start tagging. Like, you could make a tagging strategy, but you can't do that until you actually have an account. You can't tag anything. Obviously creating monthly reports, that's not going to, on existing behavior, that's not going to happen. And then of course, requesting billing discounts, that actually happens inside the account. Now, don't get me wrong, that one's a little tricky because you could go create an enterprise contract with AWS without having an account. But honestly, most people don't do that until they actually have an account. And if you want to, in exchange for that sounds like reservations, which actually happens inside of your AWS account. So that's the reason why those don't work. By the way, here's a link to pricing, right? And then the little cheat sheet. Okay, next one. little service evaluation. What do you know about the services? Let me ask this question. Does anyone remember VDI? Remember how VDI was going to change the world, virtual desktop infrastructure? Does anyone know which of these is VDI?
Workspaces, right?
Right, workspaces is VDI. So we know that's
Is that
off
what the
table.
question is asking? We should follow. This is a tricky sounding question. Simplifies contact center operations.
It's a marketing question. It's a marketing question. They're advertising the service to you, right? They're basically
Which
saying,
of the
hey,
following services simplifies contact center operations, improves agent efficiencies? Yeah, this is like, yeah, tricky question.
Yeah, it's a marketing question. So workspaces is VDI, so you know that's off the table because it doesn't have anything to do with costs with contact
Right.
center operations,
Well, direct connect shouldn't be it, right?
right? You know that either because that's networking, right? Because that's a physical wire from you to your data center.
All right,
Lex,
now we're
what-
50-50. We got a 50-50 chance
Right.
now.
What does Lex do?
I have no idea, but I don't think it's Amazon Connect.
Isn't
Yeah.
that like Alexa, Alexa, something?
All right,
Oh
so
boy,
I got a mix of responses, so I'm just going to take a guess for you, right?
really?
Right. Yeah. So Connect is actually for call centers and contact centers. That's what it's actually for,
Wow.
right? And so Lex is actually just used for building conversational interfaces. So this is, you can build Lex into any application, either text, like a text chatbot or like a voice
Wow.
bot, and it will
Right, just
actually
think of
make-
Alexa.
Exactly. That's good. That's good. Yeah. So think of Lex like Alexa. Lex is the female version of Alexa, which means it's conversational. But
So
Connect is
power-
actually the name of the contact center service.
That was really poor,
Wow.
poor decision from them to name it Connect when they had a direct connect. That's too confusing.
Oh,
Exactly,
that does not even get started on the travesty of AWS naming their services. They have one called AWS Trainium. They have another one
Oh,
called
God.
Lookout for Outposts. It's just bad.
No.
Yes, they
You
do.
made that up.
Nope, I did
Lord.
not. I did not. It's a real service. It's horrible. So anyway, bottom line is that this is a service challenge, right? So they want you to know at a very high level what every service does, right? So this is the kind of questions they give you, right? So anyway, so Connect's the only answer. Anyway, we got 50-50, right? Because we knew networking, we knew VDI. We just didn't know what the difference between Lex and Connect was. Okay. There's a lot of marketing questions, by the way, in AWS. They use these tests as an opportunity to kind of like eat your brain. So train you to think the AWS way. All right. So which of the following advantages of cloud computing describes the continual price reduction of AWS services? So
All right. Are we putting in the chat or what?
yeah, put your number if you don't mind. Okay. So let's key in on this. Describes the continual price reduction of AWS services. So stop spending money on data centers doesn't have anything to do with AWS services, right? As a matter of fact, you could spend more money with AWS. Don't get me wrong, it's cheaper with AWS in many aspects, but you know, that's not relevant for the question. Stop guessing capacity. No, that's not a price reduction. Don't get me wrong, you can fix capacity, but it's not relevant necessarily for price drops on AWS services. And trading capital expense for variable expense is also not. So the benefit from massive economies of scale, what they're basically saying is that as they get better at running virtual machines, they drop prices. As they get better at storage, they drop prices, which is exactly what they mean by massive economies of scale, is that they specialize in storage hosting and virtual machines. And just so you know, every time they release a new generation of stuff, it's cheaper and faster. I'll give you an example. They just recently released new hard drives for EBS, like, 6 months, a year ago. They are cheaper and faster than the previous hard drives. So that's what they mean. So this is one of the 6 advantages that they talk about. And this was definitely in the slides in the training. Not everything has been, but this has. Okay, next one. What's the main benefit of deploying instances to multiple availability zones? What do you get for that? What is Amazon? Why is that a best practice for Amazon? Let's hear your number. Good. I see them. Looks like everybody put 4 in there. Yeah, because it's the fault tolerance issue, right? The data centers that make up the availability zones are fault tolerant away from each other. So they recommend you run 2 so you can maintain high availability. It's not for security reasons, although, for DDoS purposes, that might help, right? It's not for cost optimization. You're running twice the instances. That might be a smaller size, but there's more overhead. And it's not necessarily for agility either. That's not the main purpose. It's mainly high availability. Okay. Let me just check for a second. Has anyone had any questions about anything? Because we're kind of moving speedily through. Okay. Here we are. e-commerce company launches several EC2 instances. This is multiple right answer, by the way, to run their web application. Which of the following services can be used to help ensure security compliance? Which two? It says select two. So what are the two security services here, or services that have a strong security aspect to them?
Inspector, right?
That's definitely one. That's a clean.
Advisor, trusted advisor. Is that the?
Shh, giving away the answers.
Oh shoot! No. I thought I was like talking to myself. Sorry.
Don't we always, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you this. What does OpsWorks do? Just to be upfront about it. What does it do?
DevOps.
Yep.
That's actually a really good answer. Technically, it's a server configuration management tool. So Puppet and Chef, like, and Ansible, those are all server configuration management tools. OpsWorks is a server configuration management tool. So it is DevOps, like, for them, right?
Is that like what is that? Is that infrastructure as code or?
Yes,
It
100%.
is, right?
Yep.
Okay.
It's really
Is it Terraform.
it's really actually operating system configuration as code.
Got it.
CloudFormation and Terraform are infrastructure as code.
Yep.
Yeah,
And MQ is, what is MQ?
So yeah, what is
Message
MQ?
queue.
So yes,
Yes.
dead on with message queue. So just so you know, that's active MQ basically. So Amazon, has had SQS for a long time. Amazon MQ is their like industry copy of an open source product, because
Oh.
SQS is super proprietary and active MQ is an industry standard. So it runs, AMQP, all the stuff, right?
Got it.
So they added another queuing service. So just so you know, that's what
Oh,
Amazon
interesting.
MQ is. Yeah.
Okay.
And then CloudFormation is what, John? Because you just said it.
It's kind of like Terraform. It's infrastructure as code.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. So so CloudFormation is mainly focused on provisioning. It can do operating systems. OpsWorks is focused on operating systems. It can do infrastructure. So two very different intentions. Usually they're put together, just so you know. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So if you knew that and you didn't know anything else, you would know that that those services are not security
Yep,
services. But trusted advisor and inspector are definitely the answer.
Yes. Got one right. Cool.
By the way, trusted advisor is the one that like is looking at your account all the time, and it sends the owner and anybody else in the distribution list things like, hey, this instance is 2% utilized. Is this what you want? Or, hey, you've got a bunch of security groups that are wide open to the world. Is this what you want? Trusted advisor is a little annoying, but very useful. And it will say, hey, by the way, you have 384 virtual machines in this availability zone. You are 100% at your service quota. Is this what you want? So it basically just advises you around security, service limits, and that kind of thing. So, okay. Oh, this is a good one because Global Accelerator is a relatively new service. Which of the following is a benefit of using the AWS Global Accelerator?
Oh, God.
Now, you have to know what Global Accelerator does, right? But we can also exclude this because some of these are descriptions of other services.
I think we can eliminate the first one, right? I think.
Yep. All right, so let's say we take one out. Accelerate server performance of your Amazon EC2 instances globally. Now notice it says accelerate server performance. I mean, it's Global Accelerator. That sounds pretty good. What about provides a highly durable data store in AWS?
Nope.
No. So we know 1 and 4 are out. So again, we're at a 50% chance actually at this point in time.
Yep.
So let's see. I'm
See what we
seeing
get?
a bunch of mixes here.
All right.
1, 2, 3.
This was
You know what?
Spence.
I'm gonna go with 3 just because it looks like that's the majority, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this one's a little bit of a trap, right? Because it says accelerate server performance. That's not what Global Accelerator does. It does networking performance, basically. So what it does is it provides you with a static IP address that serves as an entry point for your applications into any region. So it uses Anycast for this, right? But these basically what happens is this IP address is being like multiple broadcasts across all of Amazon's like edge network across the world. And so that way you can actually get into multiple regions / data centers as you need to from a single IP address. So think of this as global load balancing. That's what Global Accelerator is. It's global load balancing.
Huh.
Yeah. So different from DNS. DNS uses name resolution. This is literally you hitting an IP. Don't get me wrong, DNS can be in front of this IP address, but this is global load balancing. That's what it's for.
Cool.
Good. That's a relatively new service too, so that's good. Okay. Company plans to use AWS to send email updates for their new products through SMTP. Which service should they use? I gotta tell you, I just looking at this, this is an evil one. Because there's actually two services here that I can actually use email, but for the use case, there's actually only one that makes sense.
So
by
what
the
is the
way-
operative word here? SMTP?
SMTP, yeah. Okay, so first of all, which ones do we know have nothing to do with email? Which of these has nothing to do with email? So which ones can we
Q.
eliminate?
We can eliminate Q.
1,
SQS.
Yep, so one's
3.
gone. So 3, well, so what is SWF?
Is that workflow?
That's the workflow service. That's exactly right. So the workflow service, while it could hook in to a service that uses email, it in and of itself has nothing to do with email. So 1 and 3 are gone. Okay, so then what do we know about SNS? What does that stand for?
Simple notification service.
Can you receive email from SNS?
I don't think so.
Push notifications only?
Well, it's a notification service. So actually with the notification service, you can receive a bunch of stuff, text, email,
That's what I
web
thought.
posts, mobile
That was
pushes.
what I picked.
So SNS, but what's SES then? It's one of the
Like
oldest
game
services.
systems to
It's the simple email service.
Wow. I've never heard that before. Is that
It's a
is
real
that the
thing.
answer? Wow.
It's been around for a long time, actually.
SES.
So
Wow.
you've got SNS and SES. Okay, so
That was mean.
I gotta tell you, I'm not messing with you with this one. I actually don't even know the answer to this one.
Wow.
I'm sitting here going, are you kidding me? Because SNS can be used for email updates, but quite
SMTP.
frankly, the notification service really isn't built for like thousands of messages to thousands of people.
Wow.
SES is actually built for outbound email to like thousands of people. So if I were to guess, I'd probably say SES, right?
Oh,
But even
man.
I'm looking at this going, is that
Bummer.
really the right answer?
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what you need to kind of know is that the notification service is really just for hundreds of messages or less of notification. It's not meant for bulk email. The minute they said SMTP, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
well, if you're wanting it to use an SMTP service, then you got to use SES. Plus, it's built for thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of
Wow.
you.
Wow.
Yeah. That one's tricky. That one, I I understand if you're like, what, which one's which? So, but at least you eliminated the other two. So you knew you had a 50-50 chance. Okay. All right. So which of the following RDS features should you use to achieve high availability with automatic failover? This one,
Oh.
this is a core feature of
Here
the
we go.
RDS service. So you should definitely know this one. And don't get me wrong, if you don't get it, but like you should know what's going to create
Yeah.
high availability here.
Yeah. So we can do elimination here, right? So it's
Yes.
not the DB snapshots.
Nope. That
It's
gives you
not the performance
backups.
insights. Yeah.
Nope. That gives you data, but
Mhm.
doesn't improve high availability.
Yep. And the read replica, it's not really so for me the operative word here is, or the keyword is failover, right? Automatic failover.
Yep. Because read replicas can actually get you high availability because you can create a read replica of any RDS database.
Yep.
You can
Yep.
stick it in another region if you want
Yep.
to. And
Hmm.
it works really well. And so you can break the relationship and make that read replica a primary database if you want to. But that's all manual, not a single automatic thing about that, right? And so the only thing left is the thing that they always recommend, which is do this. And by the way, this creates a DNS name that automatically fails over depending on which database is active.
All right. Right.
So when you enable this checkbox that says multi-AZ on your RDS database, it has a primary and a secondary, and whoever's active at any given
Yep,
time
yep,
is
yep.
who the DNS name resolves to. Failover takes anywhere from half a second to 30 seconds if things are really busy. So
Wow.
yeah, so
Let's see.
that'll be,
Let's see.
so yeah. So read replicas, again, can do HA, but they're not automated. Okay. Oh God, there's a lot there as far as like follow-ups. All right, developer needs to install their application in Docker containers. So first of all, let me just say this. There's 17 ways to run containers on AWS, but there's only 2 official ways. So I'm just letting you know, don't get all wrapped up in the fact that Lambda runs containers and blah, 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 blah. Ignore all that. There's 2 official ways to run containers in AWS,
Wow.
and they are named for that purpose. So which of the
eliminates the need to manage containers manually. This is a tricky question, you know.
Why is that?
Let's see.
Why is it tricky, John?
Need
What's
to install their app. It sounds tricky right now. Hang on. Let's. Developer needs to install their application in Docker containers. All right, fine. To manage containers.
2 of them have container right in the name.
Well-
Well, no.
Well, hold on. Let's do
Well-
some elimination first.
Well,
So first of all, which services do we know are completely off the table? What is FSX?
I have no idea. So that's gone, right?
It's file system for Windows, file system for Lester. So that's a file system out. EC2, that's a virtual machine. Don't get me wrong. You could run containers there, but remember it says
Yeah.
eliminates the need to manage containers manually, which is what you would be doing if you ran a virtual machine, because the EC2 is not a container orchestrator, right? So then
this is yeah.
this is out. Now then here's where things get confusing. And Amazon does this again and again and again. Fargate is not a separate product, but Fargate is associated with the 2 container services, right? One of which is
Right,
called
right.
EKS and the other one's called what?
ECS.
ECS.
Right. So if by the way, if Fargate's right, I'm gonna have to write John an angry letter, but honestly, it should be ECS. But they said Fargate, which is honestly
Yeah. See, that's
wrong.
like,
That's
what
not
is the question?
nice.
Yeah. What is the question asking? A developer needs to install their application in Docker containers, right? So you still have to containerize it.
Yeah, but you'd have to containerize it anyway. That's something that exists
Right.
inside the service, right?
So what is this asking? Which of the following services eliminate the need to see? That's why it's like tricky.
But
I was
hold on,
gonna.
let me qualify this. Fargate doesn't eliminate the need to manage containers. It eliminates the need to manage servers. Fargate is the serverless version of EKS and ECS. So technically that's wrong because ECS is actually the right answer.
Right.
Because ECS is a container orchestrator and all Fargate does is actually eliminate the need for you to actually manage the servers underneath. It doesn't actually change anything about container management.
Yeah,
ECS
that's
already
why-
does that.
Yeah. This is kind of confusing.
So I bet you if I wrote John and I said, hey, by the way, this question's wrong, he'll probably change it, honestly. So, because it's actually 100%
So okay,
wrong.
let's give ourselves credit then. So I think the right answer is ECS.
Right, it is ECS.
Yeah.
So hold on. Just make
Yeah,
sure.
because Fargate is the orchestration, right? It's not like I don't know. Like I said, I'm still not like 100% sure that's still what this is asking.
So to say this, when you launch under both the Elastic Kubernetes service and the Elastic Container Service, the
Yeah.
first question it asks you, it says, do you want to run this on EC2 instances or do you want to run it in Fargate?
Fargate. Right.
So
right.
all Fargate
right.
is it's a
Yeah.
way of launching your underlying infrastructure for containers. But just to be clear, ECS and EKS are
Yeah.
container orchestrators who are going to manage your containers automatically for
Right,
you. They're not-
right.
So
exactly.
Fargate is just a launch type,
Yeah,
whereas EC2 is just a launch type. So that's why that question is
mean,
actually wrong.
Not to be a dead horse, but like all the container things are managed in ECS, right? So I don't know why it would be Fargate, but in any case, that's
Yeah. So I'll write John and see what he says. And by the way, look at this documentation. It's linked under ECS because it's a sub of ECS. So
I don't
yeah.
know. Yep.
Yeah. So we're gonna ignore that one. Mark it as a wash.
Oh,
if you
God.
run into it, then answer what you think is best.
Oh, here's another tricky one.
Okay, so this one actually goes through all of the S3 storage classes. So customer needs to store objects that are frequently accessed. So stop right there.
Frequently.
Frequently
that's-
accessed, not infrequently
that's your keyword.
accessed, not archived, frequently accessed. So you freeze that right there. To help the customer save costs, you must select a storage service free from retrieval charges, which by the way, there's only like 3 of them. Which of the following S3 storage classes would meet this requirement? So oh yeah.
So let's eliminate deep archive, right? Glacier.
So deprioritize out, right? Because that's a Glacier subproduct and that does have retrieval charges, right? And then does one zone and standard IA, do they have retrieval charges?
I think so. I think so.
So like Glacier Deep Archive requires your stuff to sit there for 180 days, or they're going to give you a retrieval charge. Glacier, you have to wait for a certain period of time, like 3 to 5 hours for your backup job to start. If you try to expedite it, you pay a retrieval charge. One zone and standard IA require that object to sit there for 30 days, or you're gonna have to retrieve, you're gonna pay a retrieval charge. Now, don't get me wrong, the retrieval charge is like, I don't know, 10 cents, 30 cents, 3 cents in some cases. But do that 1,000 times. Next thing you know, you're like, oh, wow, did we just spend $300 to retrieve these files?
Yep.
Right? So I see a lot of people posting
Mhm.
statements here about these two, right? And that's it.
Did we get it right?
Yes. So standard and intelligent tiering in and of itself isn't really like a specific class. It's an algorithm based class that moves you to different classes. But here's the cool thing. If intelligent tiering moves you out of Glacier or moves you out of infrequent access, you don't pay any retrieval charges.
So it's transparent to the customer.
It's invisible to the customer. They have no idea. If they go and try to access something that's the intelligent tiering stuck in Glacier, which is normally not accessible, it will
Right.
automatically and immediately pull it out of Glacier for them as quickly as possible. No retrieval, no expedition.
Right. Right.
By the way,
Interesting.
here's an interesting map. Notice the 30-day listing here.
Right.
Yeah. But just to say this is that the reason it doesn't apply to intelligent tiering is as long as you put it intelligent tiering and you leave it alone, there's no expedition or retrieval charges.
Is that automatic, or do you have to specify the intelligent tiering?
It does it for you automatically, although you can
Right.
set boundaries for it if you want to.
Got it.
All right, good. A lot of good answers there. Okay, security team needs to automate security vulnerability assessments throughout dev and prod. Which service do they use to comply with this requirement? What's the only service here that actually does assessment of any type?
So let's eliminate, right, the WAF, web application firewall, right? This is a firewall.
Right, that's
Right? The
out.
shield is for
The shield just protects you.
denial of
Sorry,
service.
Jenna, what'd you?
DDoS.
Yeah,
The shield
DDoS.
just protects you from DDoS.
Good. Good. So distributed denial of service. You got WAF. What about the last one? Why is the fourth one not work?
It's machine learning, something. Can't remember
So
what else.
it is machine learning based. So Thomas, you're definitely right. Macy actually searches for PII and S3 buckets.
Oh, right.
Right. So I'm
All
sorry.
right. So
It's not going to
so-
give you a vulnerability.
Well,
we're
no,
left with one.
and it'll say, hey, by the way, this bucket has credit card numbers in it. Is that what you want? It's kind of like trusted advisor in that way.
Macy.
But yeah, so just to say this, there are two components to Inspector. One of them is host based. What is the other one? When it does vulnerability assessments, what two ways does it attack a system?
What do you mean? Oh, host based.
Means it has an agent inside the host. What's the other way in which Inspector actually examines the virtual machine? So it comes at it through an agent inside the operating system. The other way it does it is actually does it through the network. So Inspector has a two-phase approach. It actually scans it across this network stack from the outside in, and then it has an agent inside of the system that it also uses to scan all the software, look at all the officially installed packages, check for open ports and networking from that side as well. So when it does vulnerability assessments, it does it from both directions. So, okay. Well, maybe I just made that all that up and we've just been sitting here talking about Inspector. It's not the answer. You're gonna be like Macy's the answer.
That would be a travesty. Yep.
Yeah. So this is the one, by the way, that uses Credit Discover PII. They're
Okay.
trying to expand Macy to go beyond S3, which is probably why he's being vague about the service that it covers. But right now it covers S3 and all of its variants.
Macy
It
machine
eventually is going
learning.
to cover other data stores like EFS and whatnot. So, okay. Which AWS service provides automated reference deployments for key workloads in AWS via CloudFormation templates?
Oh wow.
This is a marketing question, just so you know, because this is not an AWS service.
Service provides
So first of all, which of these do you know for a fact are AWS services?
Ops works.
You know, OpsSource is one because we saw it in the previous one,
Config.
right?
Config.
Config is definitely one because it doesn't actually configure AWS, but you can track configuration changes, right? And then oddly enough, Systems Manager is a mega service with 14 subservices underneath it, which is ridiculous.
It smells like 2, I think.
Yeah. Quick Starts is actually a website. Just to say this. So it's really kind of a trick question. AWS Quick Starts is literally a website that basically has deployments on it. So if you're out here and you're like, hey, I'd love to deploy TIBCO, right? You can basically get these deployment guides. And if you click on them, by the way, they'll open up in your account and deploy TIBCO for you based on the best practice that they've set up here. So that was literally just an advertising question for them, a marketing question, letting you know that Quick Starts exist. So
what's the answer? Is that?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Every one of those Quick Starts, by the way, on that Quick Start reference, sorry, every one of those has a CloudFormation template behind it that you can steal and amend as you see fit. So I say steal, they're giving it to you freely, but it's more fun when you steal it, even though it's given to you freely. That's kind of a damning statement, isn't it? Don't read into that. All right. Which service lets you create rules to filter web traffic based on conditions that include IP addresses, HTTP headers, or custom, and just replace URIs with URLs. Not that they're the same, but we don't need to make that distinction. So which of these is going to use rules to filter, basically? Good. So which of these do we know it's not?
The first one.
Security group.
So we know it's not trusted
Third one.
advisor. We know it's not a security group, right? Because we know what security groups do. Do we know what network ACLs are?
Access control list.
And so where does that operate at? Because security groups wrap around the instance. What do network ACLs wrap around?
The subnet.
That's exactly right.
Well,
So
the web application firewall, that's instance level, right?
Well, and what it is it's actually URL level in the sense of like
URL
it's
level,
usually tied to a specific domain name, right?
Okay.
So it very much is tied to headers and whatnot, and its sole focus is web traffic because that's why it's called a web application firewall, right? So this is the one that actually uses web-based conditions.
It's URL based. Okay, interesting. Right.
Yeah, because the others, by the way, are not URL based, right? Network ACLs are IP based, so is security groups. So if we check it, because a WAF is a layer 7, right? That only works on HTTP, HTTPS traffic.
So what is the keyword here? Web traffic, right?
Yep. Well, not only that, the other ones
HTTP,
could actually allow or deny, but they don't do filtering. And then when the minute you start looking at this, that's none of these services except for WAF.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. You know what? We're gonna sneak in one more and then we're gonna be done.
One more.
All right. Which of the following provides the key concepts, design principles, and architectural best practices for designing and running workloads in the cloud? If you decide to go on go ahead.
Sorry.
Okay, so first of all, which one of these do we know it's not actually?
Third one.
Marketplace, yeah, exactly. Marketplace is where you go to buy third-party vendor licensing, approved vendors, right?
Yeah, and definitely not one, right?
Yeah, the shared responsibility model is a security model, so that's out.
Now we're down to 50-50.
That's right. So, which provides the key concepts, design principles, and architectural best practices? Because just to be upfront, is it reference architecture diagrams or is it a framework for architecting?
4.
Yeah.
Well architected framework. Let's see.
Yeah. That's the one that has security, reliability, operational excellence, performance efficiency, and cost optimization.
Yes.
So yeah, it's definitely these right here. Okay. All right. So it's 5:59.
Cool.
We could keep going if we wanted to, but we're going to stop because it's close to 6 o'clock. I hope that was useful. Hopefully what that does is that, it starts to teach you like, okay, look at the question. What are the key pieces? And then let's start. If we don't really know, let's eliminate right off the bat. If it doesn't just like pop right into your head, like, oh yeah, this is AWS config. You can start eliminating answers And then if you're still eliminating answers, go back to the question, look at the key distinctions the
Mhm.
question is asking you, and see if you can then refine it further. So you can go through these levels of analysis. The reason I like doing it that way, just to mention this, is that it forces you to reread the question. Most people read the question once, think they have it, and they've missed a word like cost effective, scalable, or some other key thing. So I like to scan the question, eliminate, go back, scan the question again, key in, and then keep doing that until I feel like I've got the answer, assuming that the minute I see the question, I don't know what the answer is, right?
Yep.
That's the process I follow. Any questions?
Great tip.
Okay.
All right.
So I'll post this video up as soon as possible. So you'll see it at 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow at the same link. I'll post the link out there with the URL just to make sure you have it. We know that we have your vouchers, but I'll go ahead and email Victoria and make sure she sends them out. Otherwise, we're done at 6 o'clock. You guys have been fabulous.
Yep.
I'll see you next week.
Take care.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.